Hi, I'm Sky Aney, and I'm a project manager with the Southwest Climate Hub. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Dust Mitigation Handbook. The Dust Mitigation Handbook was designed to be a one-stop shop for dust mitigation resources. It was authored by a team of NRCS and ARS scientists, including Steve Smarek, who at the time was the NRCS State Resource Conservationist for Arizona, and was also a liaison to the Southwest and Southern Plains Climate Hubs. The handbook represents a one USDA vision for conservation management under varying and changing environmental conditions, and it's intended for land managers and for resource managers in the USDA and other land management agencies who are struggling with dust challenges and working with producers to craft solutions. So the Dust Mitigation Handbook is designed to walk you through different aspects of dust mitigation. The first couple of chapters talk about what the problem is with dust and particulate matter. Chapter 1 talks about the hazards and concerns. Chapter 2 talks about wind erosion processes. Chapters 3 and 4 get into how you can evaluate how much erosion might potentially happen on a piece of land. So chapter 3 talks about modeling, models that are being used right now and models that are being developed. There's also a little section on soil properties and interpretations. And then chapter 4 talks about measuring airborne particulates. Chapter 5 leads you through the 9 conservation planning steps for wind erosion. Chapter 6 presents conservation practices that are useful for erosion control on cropland. And Chapter 7 talks about practices that are helpful for controlling wind erosion on rangeland or unpaved surfaces. And I will say before we continue, the idea behind this handbook was not to reinvent the wheel. There are conservation practices out there that are being recommended by the NRCS to control wind erosion, and there are many good USDA authored and other agency authored resources that talk about what you can do about dust. So the idea behind this handbook was just to distill all those resources and put them all in one location so you can find them, so you don't have to trip through maybe 6 or 8 websites to collect this information. We did that for you and we put it all right here. Chapter 8 talks about how to get help paying for conservation practices. So the federal programs that are out there that might possibly be able to supply funding. Chapter 9 is a glossary of commonly used terms, and the appendices are a collection of, as I said, some very good resources, mostly USDA resources that have been put together on this topic. The handbook is available online at dust.swclimatehub.info. It's also available as a downloadable PDF from this website and in hard copy. There was a workshop also presented on this handbook to introduce it. The workshop was live in 2019, but it is still available on demand from the NRCS webinar platform. And here's the URL right here. You can also find this URL on the Dust Mitigation Handbook website. So just a quick look at some of the things that you can find in the handbook. There are a series of charts and graphs. You can look up practices and see what states those practices are most often implemented in. So for example, cover crops here is most often implemented or is implemented with the most number of acres in Indiana, followed by Iowa and a few other states. There are also photographs of each conservation practice. So here again, cover crops, there's a picture of cover crops being implemented in an orchard setting. If you're more interested in seeing what practices are being used in the state that you're working in, there are charts that you can look at that too. So over here, the conservation practices for Arizona, the one that was applied most often or to the most number of acres was reduced till, followed by cover crops, no-till, and crop rotation. And this was for the 2013 to 2017 period. And as I mentioned before, chapter 5 talks about how you actually go about assembling a conservation plan. As far as responses to the Dust Mitigation Handbook, so it's been out a little over a year now, and the webinar has been viewed by 230 participants to date, with 108 of those people getting a certificate or continuing education credits. 200 hard copies have been printed and 141 distributed to date. The hard copies have been put in NRCS field offices in Arizona, Texas, and Utah, and sent also to individuals in a number of other states. Some of the comments we've received: one of the ranchers that had requested the handbook had written us back and said, "I'm very impressed with the wide span of references in this publication, and I plan to put them to good use." Another person wrote to us that this is exciting to see this come to fruition. I worked closely with Steve Smerrick, and I know the effort he put into this product. So overall, our responses have been very positive, and we're really excited about this resource and happy to present it. So with that, does anyone have any questions?